Hi everyone, I'm Linda Reimer, one of the librarians at the Southeast Bend County Library. Welcome to Library Connections, our weekly readers, viewers, and listeners advisory video cast. Enjoy. Library Connections number 85. This is the Friday, January 21st, 2022 edition of Library Connections. And I almost said 2021. But we know we're living in 2022, so we'll go with that. Kicking things off with the top 5 fiction bestsellers for this week from the New York Times. At number 1, It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. A battered wife, raised in a violent home, attempts to halt the cycle of abuse. At number 2, Something to Hide by Elizabeth George, the 21st book in the Inspector Lynley series. Lynley pursues a killer who might be hiding in North London's Nigerian community. At number 3, The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. A movie icon recounts stories of her loves and career to a struggling magazine writer. At number 4, Verity by Colleen Hoover. Loan Ashley is hired by the husband of an injured writer to complete her popular series, and she uncovers a horrifying truth. And at number 5, The Maid by Nita Prose. When a wealthy man is found dead in his room, a maid at the Regency Grand Hotel becomes a lead suspect. Moving on to the top 5 nonfiction bestsellers for this week. At number 1, The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk. How trauma affects the body and mind, and innovative treatments for recovery. At number 2, Unthinkable by Jamie Raskin. The Maryland congressman describes leading the impeachment effort against the former president shortly after his son's death by suicide and the insurrection at the Capitol. At number 3, The 1619 Project, edited by Nicole Hannah Jones, Caitlin Roper, Elena Silverman, and Jake Silverstein. Viewing America's entanglement with slavery and its legacy in essays adapted and expanded from the New York Times Magazine. At number 4, How Civil Wars Start by Barbara F. Walter. A political scientist looks at the increasing civil wars around the globe and the potential for a second one in the United States. And at number 5, Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey. The Academy Award-winning actor shares snippets from the diaries he kept over the last 35 years. Our first recommended read for this week is the new memoir by Valerie Bertinelli. It's called Enough Already: Learning to Love the Way I Am Today. In a series of brutally frank essays, Bertinelli, host of the Food Network show Valerie's Home Cooking, looks back on the emotional struggles and triumphs of her life, sharing her efforts to, at 61 years old, set aside the landmines of denial, negativity, and self-hate that she cultivated during her decades-long acting career. She contends with her weight gain after losing 50 pounds and posing on the cover of People magazine in a bikini. She conveys her deep grief around the death of her ex-husband, Eddie Van Halen, who died from cancer in October 2020, and she revels in joy at winning 2 Emmys for her TV show. She doesn't mince words when speaking of her body image issues, the challenges she faced as an actor, or how she overcame her shortcomings and learned to accept her appearance, saying whether I was a size 2, an 8, or a 12, I was still me. Boy, I'd like to be a size 12, but of course I digress. As Bertinelli works through her pain, she offers rewards in the form of sumptuous recipes, yum, including notably her spinach crab dip, her mother's unbeatable lasagna, and Sicilian chocolate love cake. By turns raw and inspiring, this book contains a little bit of wisdom for everyone. And that is the Starred Publishers Weekly Review. Our second recommended read for this week is the new David Gutterson novel, The Final Case. The death from hypothermia of an adopted Ethiopian girl, Abiba Abigail Edisu, while in the care of her Christian fundamentalist parents, Betsy and Delvin Harvey, drives this outstanding literary thriller from PEN Faulkner Award for Fiction winner Gutterson. Betsy and Delvin, who live in rural Skagit County, north of Seattle, are arrested on homicide charges, and Betsy is put on trial for murder. On a break from writing fiction, the unnamed narrator accompanies his elderly criminal attorney father, Royal, who has agreed to defend Betsy, for the pretrial interview of Betsy. When Royal dies before the final verdict, his son picks up the loose end threads of his father's life while continuing to follow the case, which exposes the cruel conditions in which Abiba suffered. The narration is the novel's main draw, equal parts philosophical, humane, and self-deprecating. It powerfully speaks to the ineffable contradiction of living a meaningful life. Gutterson sensitively explores religion, white privilege, and justice, while examining with realism and empathy the bond between parents and their children. With its simple message of hope, this novel will linger with readers long after the final page. And that's the Starred Publishers Weekly Review. Our first audiobook recommendation for this week is the new memoir by Carl Bernstein. It's called Chasing History, A Kid in the Newsroom. The audio is narrated by Robert Petkoff. Pulitzer Prize winner Bernstein looks back on his early days as a reporter, before his Watergate reporting made him a household name in this entertaining memoir. With wry humor, he describes his apprenticeship in the newspaper trade from ages 16 to 21. Though his poor grades and record as a juvenile delinquent made it seem that, as he recalls, the odds were against my ever amounting to much, Bernstein recounts how in 1960, with the help of his father, he got an interview at the now defunct Washington Star. Thanks to his persistence and charisma, Bernstein secured a job there as a copy boy and moved rapidly up the ranks. He amusingly recounts going from covering local stories to reporting on major political events, such as the fledgling Kennedy administration, all the while juggling the mundanities of high school. Now that I had covered the inauguration of the President of the United States, he recalls, Mr. Adelman's chemistry class interested me even less. Imagine that. Just as enthralling are his quaint recollections of growing up in D.C. at a time where being raised there felt akin to living in a small town that also happened to be the capital of the country. Admirers of this remarkable journalist will find much to love in this charming account, and that is the Starred Publishers Weekly Review. Our second audiobook recommendation for this week is called The Ninth Metal by Benjamin Percy. This is science fiction, and I would refer to this novel as a do what's right science fiction novel, which you'll understand momentarily when I tell you about the plot. The audio is narrated by Julia Whelan. And now about the plot. A comet flies past Earth, making the night as bright as day. A year later, the debris of that comet crashes into Earth, creating a boomtown that is solely focused on omnimetal, a substance that can seemingly do anything, including grant powers of invulnerability and strength. As greed and vice engulf their rural Minnesota hometown, a few people decide to take matters into their own hands to do what's right. Percy is an accomplished superhero comic writer, and that aesthetic is evident from page 1. The plot is dynamic, featuring multiple viewpoints, as well as corporate malfeasance, spooky cults, and family drama. This sounds complicated, and it is, but all of these moving parts work together due to strong characterization, especially the cheery rookie police officer, Stacy Toll. The action is vivid, without being too graphic, contributing to an overall cinematic feel. While the novel comes to a satisfying conclusion, this is the first book in an anticipated trilogy, recommended for fans of Brandon Sanderson's Reckoner series or Vicious by V.E. Schwab. And that is the Booklist review. Moving on to our first streaming recommendation for this week. This one is a classic Gothic film. It's called Wick, directed by Joseph L. Mankiewicz. This one came out in 1946 and stars Gene Tierney, Walter Huston, and Vincent Price. Joseph L. Mankiewicz made his directorial debut with this period spellbinder, awash in moody Gothic atmosphere. In 1844, innocent Miranda Wells comes to work for her distant relative, Nicholas Van Ryn, as an au pair in his ornate mansion, and she soon finds herself engulfed in a whirlpool of romance, mystery, and menace. Screen legend Walter Huston co-stars in this superbly mounted adaptation of Anna Stetton's best-selling novel, which features ravishing monochrome lensing, courtesy of acclaimed cinematographer Arthur C. Miller. And that's the Criterion overview of this Gothic classic. Our second streaming recommendation for this week actually isn't out yet, but it will be out before next Friday. It actually is being released, episode 1 anyway, on January 24th. And it's The Gilded Age, created by Julian Fellows and Sonia Warfield, and starring Cynthia Nixon, Janine Triplehorn, and Tissa Farmiga. Downton Abbey creator Julian Fellows has a new period drama. He moves the action to 1880s New York City, and instead of upstairs versus downstairs, the conflicts are between old money and new wealth. Snobby socialite Agnes Van Ryn clings to established notions of the elite, but her values are challenged by her new neighbors, the filthy rich industrialist George Russell and his upwardly mobile wife Bertha. Amidst this burgeoning social war arrives Agnes's niece, Marion Brooke, an orphan from the sticks. She may have old money in her blood, but she's as thrilled by the possibilities of the Gilded Age as her friend, the aspiring black writer Peggy Scott. And that's the IndieWire overview of the Gilded Age, episode 1 of which drops on Monday. Moving on to our third streaming recommendation, this is an intense and dark one, but it's The Tragedy of Macbeth, directed by Joel Cohen, and starring Denzel Washington, Frances McDormand, and Alex Hassel. The Tragedy of Macbeth is a historical drama based, of course, on the play by the great William Shakespeare. The film opens on the battlefield, where Macbeth and Banquo have just led King Duncan's army to victory, defeating the traitorous Thane of Cawdor. The duo are approached by 3 witches, who prophesy that Macbeth will become king and that Banquo will father a line of kings. The journey of Macbeth goes on from there. He becomes convinced he is invincible and is destined to be king at any cost, and responds accordingly, the ambitious Lady Macbeth spurring him on. With murder, drama, and treachery in the mix, Macbeth does become king, and to sum it up in a nutshell, everything goes downhill from there to his ultimate defeat. The acting in the movie, which in addition to the leads, features a top-notch ensemble cast, is superb. So if you're looking for an excellent drama, check out The Tragedy of Macbeth. And finally, our hoopla recommendation for this week is the classic comedy Barefoot in the Park from 1967, starring Robert Redford and Jane Fonda. And a little about the plot. Master of Broadway comedy, Neil Simon, adapted his hit play about a conservative young lawyer and his off-the-wall bride for this warm film classic. Robert Redford is Mr. Straight. Jane Fonda is his new wife, who dedicates her life to the pursuit of fun. As the ecstasy of the honeymoon gives way to the reality of setting up housekeeping in a 5-flight walk-up, the harmony of marriage turns to comical discord. The mother-in-law complains meekly, the middle-aged Lothario upstairs flirts, and joy turns to anguish. There is little doubt that the young people will kiss and make up by the end of the picture, just as there's little doubt that the mother and neighbor will find each other. Fonda and Redford make a wonderfully successful comedy team. So if you're looking for a light, fun film with a happy ending, check out Barefoot in the Park, available through Hoopla. If you have questions about this weekly videocast, let me know. Send an email to me and I'll get back to you. My email address is reimerl@stls.org. That's reimerl@stls.org. The library is currently open the following hours: Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. and on Saturday from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. We are closed on Sundays, but our digital catalogs, including Overdrive, Libby, and Hoopla, not to mention a bunch of really cool databases if you're doing research, those are all open 24/7, 365. If you have questions about any of our digital offerings, please call the library and we'll be happy to tell you all about them. You can also send me an email and I'll tell you all about them. But I digress. Moving right along. The library's website is found at ssclibrary.org, and you see a photo of our website on the left side of your page. If you're looking for research resources available online 24/7, you want to click on the down arrow there on the resources link, which is towards the right-hand corner of our website. You'll see it bordered in red on the screen here, and then you'll get a menu, and you want the third option that says Research and Learning, and that will take you to a page that lists all our databases, If you want the ones that are more academic, scroll all the way to the bottom and click on the list to see all databases. StarCat and its companion app, BookMine. StarCat is the catalog of physical library materials available to all card holders of the public libraries in the Southern Tier Library System. STLS encompasses the public libraries in Steuben, Chemung, Yates, Schuyler, and Allegheny counties. You can find StarCat online at starcat.stls.org, and you can find the BookMine app, which is spelled Bookmyne, in your app store. So you can access the catalog to search for print books, DVDs, anytime you want to, from either the website catalog or the app. The digital catalog and its companion app, Libby. The digital catalog is like StarCat, except it offers digital content to all library card holders within the Southern Tier Library System. So that means eBooks, downloadable audiobooks, a handful of streaming videos too. So online you can find the digital catalog at stls.overdrive.com, or you can download the Libby app to your mobile device. Additionally of note, if you have a dedicated e-reader like the Kindle Paperwhite, you can get digital catalog content, also known as Libby content, on your e-reader. But there's a different way to do that. So if you have questions about how to put ebooks on your dedicated e-reader, just know that you can do that. Just call the library or drop by and we will walk you by the steps, which are a little different depending upon which dedicated e-reader you have. Hoopla. The Hoopla catalog features ebooks, comic books, full-length albums, downloadable audiobooks, and streaming videos, including both TV shows and movies. All Hoopla items are available for instant checkout for Southeast Steuben County Library card holders with a maximum of 10 checkouts per card per month. Communicating with the library. If you have a question about library services during the pandemic, you are welcome to go the traditional route and simply give us a call. The library's telephone number is 607-936-3713. And you can also connect with the library via social media. The library has pages on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram. Library blogs. We have several of them. We have the Book Club for Adults blog, found at SSCLbook.club, and about, you guessed it, the monthly book club for adults. The Corning NY History blog, which is our local history blog featuring weekly postings. That one's found at corningnyhistory.com. We have Creation Stationery, our Makerspace blog, which you can access at creationstationery.com. We also have Storing Musings, a blog hosted by the library's resident author and head of adult services, Michelle Wells, which is found at storymusings.blogspot.com. And finally, we have Tech and Book Talk, a readers, viewers, and listeners advisory blog, which is found at sscltech.com. And notable, you will also find each episode of Library Connections posted to the blog, usually on Tuesday of the week after they air, episodes airing, of course, on Fridays. And our references over the week. And that's the program for this week. I'll be back next week with a new edition of Library Connections. Happy reading and stay warm.